Are you a guy who's feeling lost in these menswear streets and wants to build a timeless wardrobe that turns heads? If you're not in agreement, then I want to link with you for a complimentary Step Up Your Menswear Discovery Call. In this informative 20-minute session, I'll dissect your current fashion choices and identify where you might be missing out on opportunities to enhance your style game, all while staying true to classic menswear principles. Whether you're a professional, a businessman, or simply someone seeking to upgrade your style game, the Step Up Your Menswear Discovery Call is tailor-made for you. Book a slot on my calendar today by going to I'mNotAGentleman.com and click on the Work With Me tab. Peace.
I'm Not a Gentleman is a production of ChaseandRider.com.
A wise man once said, "Nothing says you're more corny and less grown than when a girl asks for time, you pull out a cell phone." Come on, man. Just because you have the time on your phone doesn't mean that you don't need a watch. It's ridiculous, man. Yo, what's good? Welcome to I'm Not a Gentleman, the show designed to help you look stylish without following trends. I'm your host, Vladimir Riché from ChaseandRider.com and your favorite menswear YouTuber's favorite menswear YouTuber. I've helped dozens of clients and hundreds of students and viewers feel more confident by looking their best and always making a great first impression. Here in this episode, we're going to talk about 8 urban legends when it comes to menswear. Some of them was before I really got into menswear, and some of them are after I got into menswear. And I'm like, who came up with this? This is crazy. So this is what we're going to talk about in this episode, because these kind of things can stop you in your tracks and make you not even want to start. You know what I mean? Check out my Patreon at I'mNotAGentleman.com/support for behind-the-scenes footage, early access to episodes, and bonus content. Intro.
Back in that bag again. Whoa.
All right, welcome back. So as I was saying, we're going to discuss 8 menswear myths when it comes to menswear. Urban legends, if you will. Now, this one really goes crazy, man, because a lot of guys that like to get dressed, they think that the tight fit is the right fit. And I do understand where it comes from, because guys that don't like to dress, where they have to be forced to wear a suit, and they would only put on a suit if they have to attend like a wedding or something like that. Those guys, most of them wear their suits really big. So the guys that like to dress, they don't want to get confused with the ones that don't like to dress. So they're like, I'm going to do a complete 180 and wear my suit too tight instead. That way nobody thinks that me and the guy that doesn't like to dress are the same. I think a lot of it comes from that, just to differentiate themselves from the guys that don't like to dress. And by the way, I've been in both camps. I was the guy that hated to wear a suit, and I was the guy that thought I knew how to dress and was wearing all my clothes too tight. But the thing is, a tight fit is not the right fit at all. A tight fit is really a horrible fit. Actually, I made a whole episode on how a suit should fit, and I will include it in the show notes. But a tight fit is definitely not the right fit. A tight fit is downright uncomfortable. Like, I see some of these suits that some of these dudes be wearing, and I'm saying to myself, there's no way that you're comfortable in this suit, bro. What happens if there's an emergency and we all have to run? Now what? And I'm not even going to sit there in front like it didn't take me a while to come to that realization. Because like I was saying, I was one of the guys that thought that I had to wear my suits tight. So around 2010, 2011, I had joined a forum called Style Forum. And that was prior to Instagram really getting big. I don't even think Instagram was around yet. And guys would go there to discuss menswear, post their outfits, and people can like the outfit or comment on it or whatnot. And I would notice that the guys that used to get all the love, all their suits look big to me. So thank God I never really posted myself. I was just scrolling on the website low key, you know what I mean? But it started to register more and more, like, why is this guy getting all the love, all the comments, when his suit is so big? So slowly but surely, around like 2012, I started to realize that maybe the problem is me and not them. And I fully didn't really come to the realization until 2013. Because, usually you're in denial, especially if you think that you already know something. Because at that time, I was already working in the menswear industry, giving people style advice. So obviously, I must know what the hell I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So it did take me about a year and a half to fully come to the conclusion that the problem was me. See, that's the gift and the curse of the internet. Regardless of what you're looking for, you're going to find it. So if you're looking for some kind of validation, whatever you put in the search, you will find something that's backing up whatever it is that you believe in. So if you put should a suit be fitted, you'll find a bunch of articles and pictures of people that agree with that. So it doesn't really matter what you type in, you'll definitely find validation for what you're looking for. So back then, it was also in the Tumblr days where a lot of guys were wearing their suits too tight and getting a lot of love on Tumblr. But the difference is Styrofoam was definitely very different. You can tell that the guys that were on there were really, really passionate. And you could also tell that those guys were knowledgeable. When I started in the menswear industry and we had training, I remember them telling us that those type of fits where the suit fits nicely, but it's not tight, it's like for an older person. Versus if you don't want to look like an older person, you should be wearing your suits more fitted. So back then, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely don't want to look like an older dude, you know what I mean? So yeah, fitted it is. But fit has nothing to do with age. It's either something fits or it doesn't fit. And a tight fit is definitely not the right fit. So that's definitely an urban legend out there and something that we should put a stop to. But I know it's not going to happen. A lot of guys are looking at me like I'm the hater. But if you're just starting out and you're looking at pictures of guys in tight suits and you're like, something is not right, but you're really confused because those guys are really loud, you know what I mean? And it looks like they know what they're talking about. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, man. So no, it shouldn't be tight. Obviously, it shouldn't be loose. It should be somewhere in the middle, but it definitely shouldn't be tight. You should be comfortable in your clothes. That's why when somebody tells me I look very comfortable in my clothes, is one of the highest compliments somebody can pay me. So regardless if I'm wearing street gear or I'm wearing tailored clothing, I want to be able to feel the same. I don't want to feel restricted because I'm in tailored clothing, but I feel relaxed when I'm in my street gear. I want to feel exactly the same. All right, so that's urban legend number one. Urban legend number two. Shoes aren't really that important because nobody can really see them anyway. This is one of the craziest things. And it's out there, man. That's why you see a lot of guys really focus more on their suits. They don't pay any attention to their shoes because they figure nobody really sees those shoes anyway. Like you wouldn't believe in my work as an image consultant, whenever I talk to guys about, okay, what's your budget? So let's get a nice round number. Let's say $1,000 is their budget. 75% of those guys, they really think that they should get everything they need. So we're talking about their suit, we're talking about their shirt, their tie, socks, whatever it is, right? And then with whatever's left over, that's when they start to think about what shoes they're going to get. Like this happens 3 out of 4 times. And to me, that's looking at it backwards. If you're putting an outfit together, the first thing that I'm thinking that someone should get are the shoes. And then with what's left over, then we can fit everything else in. And the reason why I think like that is because to me, the shoes are the foundation. Just like when you're building a house. Of course, you want to think about the kitchen, the bathroom. Those things are very important. But if you really compromise on the foundation and you don't have a strong one, everything else doesn't matter because they're going to crumble. So regardless of the vision that you have for the kitchen, you got to make sure that the house has a strong foundation. It's the same exact thing with your outfit, man. There's really no difference. So that's why I'm such a champion of nice shoes. And it's not like I don't like nice suits. Obviously, I do. But you definitely got to put the shoes first, man. And actually, I put those shoes first. You don't necessarily have to put the shoes first, but you just can't put the shoes last. You know what I mean? Like the shoes gotta be number one and number two. Like I get it. Some guys probably like their suits more than they do their shoes or whatever. And that's all good, but they gotta be one and one A, something like that, right? So you can't be thinking about your shoes last. You gotta be thinking about your shoes first or second at the latest. And what's with that nobody sees your shoes anyway business? I mean, unless you just drive for a living, you never get out of your car, you're just in the car all day long. Yeah, maybe nobody sees your shoes, you know what I mean? But don't you have to like walk to places after you park your car? And have you ever heard that the first thing that women notice on men are their shoes? Like, can't really be serious, man. Nobody sees your shoes anyway. What kind of talk is that, man? Everybody sees your shoes, bro. Come on, man. These guys are crazy. Nah, man, your shoes are the most important part of your outfit. Wearing nice shoes even make you walk different. You have a certain swagger to you when you're wearing nice shoes, you know? So never listen to anybody that tells you no, shoes aren't really that important. And by the way, all these things that I'm telling you is me speaking from experience. I knew nothing about shoes. I remember I used to give my sister money for her to buy me shoes because I had no idea what the hell I was looking for. But I knew about suits, but the shoes were last on my list. But you don't want to be that guy. Definitely think about your shoes first or second, depending on what kind of guy you are. But just make sure you prioritize those shoes and don't just leave them to chance. Doesn't really make any sense, man. Nice shoes really work wonders for an outfit. Imagine wearing a really nice suit, but your shoes are trash. Personally, I always noticed those shoes. But even when I was in high school, I knew that shoes were important. So I used to always stay in the latest Jordans and the Asics and the New Balances. And when I first got here from Haiti, I remember my cousin Square telling me that girls always look at your feet. So that's why I used to always make sure that I had nice sneakers on. But like I was saying, I didn't really care about menswear, so that's why I didn't really care about dress shoes. And that's one thing that really hurts me too, man. I see a lot of guys that spend money on their sneakers, but when it comes to the dress shoes, they want to scamp. Doesn't make any sense, man. You know, you have to keep the same energy. So if you like nice sneakers, you should like nice shoes. It's the same thing, bro. But once again, I'm speaking from experience. Now, speaking of shoes, the third urban legend is that navy suits do not go with black shoes. This one really, really irks me because I don't know where it came from, man. First time I heard about it was in 2018. And that's when a cousin of mine posted on Instagram that everybody knows that you're not supposed to wear black shoes with a navy suit unless it's a tuxedo. But if you're wearing a navy suit, you should be wearing brown shoes. And I remember being so confused. Like, wait, what? So I'm like, let me look at the comments. And the post had a bunch of likes. So since the dude that posted is my cousin and I got a lot of love for him, I was just going to text him like, yo, bro, that's not a thing. But when I read the comments, I saw this dude was like, yeah, that's law. And I'm saying to myself, what law is this? So I felt the need at that time to actually comment under the post itself. And I was like, bro, there's no such thing as you can't wear black shoes with a navy suit. Black shoes with a navy suit is actually one of the best combinations there is. That's been around for years and years and years, like generations, you know? So I was really baffled because I never heard of it until 2018. So even though the post had a bunch of likes and people were agreeing with him in the comments, part of me was still thinking that this is not really a thing, right? Like nobody's really thinking that way, you know what I mean? And then fast forward, let's say 2 years, I'm listening to the Michael K show. If you guys live in New York, you're probably familiar with the Michael K show. It's Michael K, Peter Rosenberg, and Dunn, right? Dunn was telling a story about how he went to some kind of event over the weekend, and Peter asked him, "So what did you wear?" He's like, "Oh, I wore a navy suit with black shoes." And Peter was like, "Wait, what? You wore a navy suit with black shoes? What kind of animal are you?" And that's when I was like, wow, this is really a thing. Like, dudes are really out here thinking that you shouldn't be wearing black shoes with a navy suit. And the part that really, really clicked for me is, if you know me, one of my biggest pet peeves is when guys wear a dark suit with light brown shoes. It's an epidemic. Next time you go to a wedding, you will notice that about 90% of those guys that think that they know how to dress, they'll be wearing a navy suit with light brown shoes. I guarantee it. And sometimes it's the groom himself with the whole wedding party that's in that look. And that's when it started to make sense to me, like, oh, so that's what it is. Not only do those guys think that you can't wear black shoes with a navy suit, they're thinking that you should be wearing light brown shoes with a navy suit. Not just any brown shoes, but light brown shoes with a navy suit. So that's when I put two and two together. Because I've always wondered, like, what do guys do that? And by the way, the reason why I hate that look is because it brings too much attention to itself. So if you're wearing a dark suit or dark trousers and you're wearing light brown shoes, those shoes are going to stand out way too much. It's going to look like you're wearing high beams for shoes. As I was saying before, the shoes are going to get attention regardless. So there's really no reason for you to put extra attention on your shoes by wearing light brown shoes with dark trousers or a dark suit. It's just too jarring of a contrast. It's like, hey, look at me. I'm wearing light brown shoes with a dark suit. It's really not cool, but I think a lot of guys think that it is, which is crazy to me. But it makes sense. Those guys that don't think that you should be wearing black shoes with a navy suit think that you should be wearing light brown shoes with a navy suit. So my recommendation is, yes, black shoes go great with a navy suit. It's a classic combination. And number two, if you do like to wear light brown shoes, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, then you should be wearing them with a light gray suit. Stay away from the jarring contrast that comes with dark trousers and light shoes. Number four, this is another funny one. You don't need a watch anymore these days. You have your cell phone. I mean, you gotta be kidding me, man. A wise man once said, nothing says you're more corny and less grown than when a girl asks for time, you pull out a cell phone. Come on, man. Just because you have the time on your phone doesn't mean that you don't need a watch. It's ridiculous, man. A watch is one of the very few accessories that men actually have. If you look at women, they have so many different things that they can use to accessorize versus us as men. There really aren't that many things. Of course, some guys like to wear rings and bracelets and those type of things. I'm not huge on those things, but I'm definitely huge on a watch, a dress watch, that is. And you don't have to spend a bunch of money, and you actually don't need a bunch of watches. You really only need one, and then you can have multiple straps. Personally, I like to pair my straps to my shoes. Oh, by the way, I do have my own straps called the Chase and Rider straps, and I will include a link in the show notes. But you really don't need a bunch of watches. You just need a bunch of straps. And I happen to have a few watches because I'm really into them, but you really don't need a whole bunch. So don't let that stop you. And if you're only going to have one, it's a good idea to invest in a nice one, but it is possible to find a nice watch under $1,000 or even under $500. And like I was saying, just get some nice straps for it. And when it comes to dress watches, I'd say you want to be around 38 millimeters at the max. Of course, it depends on your wrist size, etc. But average wrist size is probably around 7 inches. But if that happens to be the case, then I say you want to be around 38 or 39 millimeters tops, because once you start getting into the 40s, to me, it just stop looking like a dress watch. It starts looking like a tool watch. And one thing that I do believe in is when you're wearing a suit, you should be wearing a dress watch. Now, if you're really into watches and you've been doing it for years, you like to wear your tool watch with your suit, more power to you, man. But just me personally, I think that if you're wearing a suit, you should be wearing a dress watch, and the case should be under 40 millimeters. But yeah, that's ridiculous, man. The fact that you have a phone, that means that you don't need a watch. And where do these things come from anyway, man? Some of these things that I be hearing out there, it's like, yo, who came up with this? That's pretty corny too, man, wearing an Apple Watch with a suit, but that's a different episode for another day. Yes, you do need a dress watch, even though you have the time on your phone. All right, number 5. This is one of the ones that almost stopped me from actually getting into menswear. And that one is dressing well is too expensive. And that's a huge misconception. And I can understand where it comes from, because when people think of suits compared to, let's say, street clothes, because the suit makes you look more polished, there's a train of thought that it must really be expensive. And that's really not the case. Of course, they can get pretty expensive, just like everything else, though. You know what I mean? But it doesn't have to be that. And like I said, almost stopped me in my tracks. I remember when I couldn't afford certain things, but I would still go to the mall to window shop, and I'd be looking at Tom Ford suits, and they were around like $5,000. Now, if you're thinking that you have to spend $5,000 on a suit, you might never wear a suit, man. Like, it's ridiculous. You don't have to spend $5,000 on a suit. You can spend $500 on a suit and look better than the guy that's wearing the $5,000 suit. And this is one thing that I stress, is all about the fit more than it is about the suit. But no, you don't have to spend a ton of money in order for you to look nice. Just have to know what you're looking for. Now, one brand that I'm always talking about, if you know me, is Spear and McKay. I mean, they can go much higher than that, but they start under 400. That's it to about 700 and change for maybe like a full canvas suit. And shoes, I always tell guys that the sweet spot is between 400 and 500, but it's like right now there are so many brands out there that are making really, really nice shoes in the $300 to $400 range, and some of them are even under $300 if you really know what you're looking for. So no, dressing well doesn't have to be expensive. And a lot of the same guys that be saying that dressing well is too expensive, those are the same guys that has the Louis and Gucci belts, but they're telling me that dropping $300 on a pair of dress shoes is too expensive, but they'll easily drop 500 on a pair of sneakers. Like, make it make sense, man. You have to keep the same energy when it comes to those things. So don't let that discourage you if you're just starting out thinking that I'll never be able to afford a really nice suit, so I'm just gonna chill on the suit for now. You can get a nice suit for $500, I promise you. So get out of that mindset that dressing well is too expensive. And also another thing to consider, what I teach is classic menswear. So we're not following trends here. We're building a timeless wardrobe. So a lot of the things that you'll be buying, if you take care of them, you can have them for many, many years to come. It's not like a pair of sneakers and it's not going to last you a very long time. Or some kind of street gear that's going to be out of style by next year. If you're buying the right things, they're going to last you a while. So even if you have to pay a little bit extra to get a better quality, you have to look at it like an investment where it's going to last you many, many years. It doesn't have to be that expensive, man. Just gotta know what you're doing. We're getting towards the end of the countdown. Number 6. This is a funny one, but I must be sharp because I get so many compliments. Oh my God, this one is crazy, man. And I get it too, because if you're getting so many compliments, you must be doing something right, right? Wrong. When it comes to compliments, you really have to consider the source of said compliment, man. And I'm not saying that the person that's giving you the compliment is lying to you, but that person may not know what really looks nice. Back in the days, everybody wore suits, so you really have to look nice to get a compliment. But nowadays, people hate to wear suits, man, especially after the pandemic. Forget about it. So whenever someone puts on a suit, automatically you're going to get a ton of attention because you're wearing a suit when nobody else is. So that's going to bring a lot of compliments with it. But you can't take those compliments to the bank. You won't be able to cash that check, man. I remember I went to a wedding and the groom was doing his rounds while we were online at the cocktail hour. And, gave me a dap and it was like, yo, you always sharp. I'm like, all right, fam, appreciate it, man. And then he went to the guy behind me and he said the same thing to him. Like, yo, bro, you always sharp. I couldn't even turn around so I can see what the guy behind me looks like. And let's just put it this way, that guy wasn't really too sharp, man. But that's the thing. To him, because we were wearing suits, we were sharp. The best compliment is this guy looks sharp, but I don't really know what makes him so sharp. To me, that's one of the best compliments because they can't really pinpoint exactly what it is about the way that I look that makes me look sharp, but they just know that I'm sharp. And if we rewind a little bit, when we're talking about light brown shoes with dark suits, that's one of the things that's going to bring compliments with it because it's so in your face. So if somebody's talking about what you had on, and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, he was the dude that had the light brown shoes," because that's what they're going to remember about your outfit because it was standing out so much. When you meet somebody, you want them to be looking at your face. You don't want them to be looking down at your feet. But that's what happens when you're wearing dark trousers, dark suit with light brown shoes. So with me, if I'm wearing a dark suit, I'm wearing dark shoes. So that's not going to bring as much attention or as much compliments as the guy that's wearing light brown shoes. But everything that I'm wearing is going to flow nicely. So when a regular person looks at me, and by regular person, I mean somebody that's not really into menswear like that, right? There's not really one thing that I can pinpoint when they're trying to explain what made me look so sharp to them. Because everything just flows. I'm saying that to say this, there's a great chance that the guy that doesn't really know how to dress is going to get a lot more attention than me. And I'm completely fine with that. Actually, I prefer that. Because if I go out and I start getting too many compliments about one thing, it's going to make me want to reconsider ever wearing that thing again. Because I don't ever really want for one thing to outshine all the other things. They have to flow like an orchestra. That's how I look at it when I'm getting dressed. So if you're looking at an orchestra, if you're listening to an orchestra rather, a lot of times you can't really pick out which instrument is doing what. Unless, of course, you're really into music, then you can be like, oh, that's the bass. I can hear it. But most people cannot hear the bass. They just hear the whole beat because everything is just in perfect harmony. And that's how I think about my outfit. So always consider the source of a compliment because they may mean well, but they don't really know what they're talking about. So therefore, you shouldn't take that to the bank and think just because you get a ton of compliments, you must be doing it right. And that also goes down to cologne too. Like you can be wearing a nice smelling cologne, but you shouldn't be wearing said cologne because you want people to tell you that you smell nice. If you like the cologne and you know that it smells nice, then wear the cologne. But don't wear it because people are going to tell you that you smell nice. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't wear my clothes for people to tell me that I look nice or that I dress nice. I wear my clothes because I like it, you know what I mean? But I don't wear it because of the compliment that's going to come. All right, we have two left. So, urban legend number 7, a custom suit always fits. Nah, this is some BS right there. See, a custom suit doesn't make itself. Somebody still has to take your measurements in order for the garment to be produced. So you're still dealing with human beings. So if the person that's taking your measurements isn't really that good, then there's a good chance that the final product is going to suffer. Like I've heard so many guys say my suit fits nice because it's custom. And then I look and the suit is too tight or the shoulders aren't right. Bro, just because your suit is custom doesn't mean that it fits. Custom suit just means that you got to pick the fabric and the suit was made based off your measurements. But that's pretty much it. Doesn't mean that the suit fits nice. I mean, that's the idea. If a suit is custom, it's supposed to fit you, but that's not always the case. So whenever you're getting a custom suit made, just make sure that you and the clothier are on the same page and you guys are looking at things through the same lens. Because what fits nicely to you might not be the same for him. And towards the end of my tenure when I was a clothier, one thing that I used to notice is a lot of guys, when they came to the appointment, they didn't really care so much about how the suit fit. What they really cared about was what color lining they're going to pick, or they're going to have contrast buttonholes on the suit jacket. They cared about the details, but they didn't really care about the fit so much. You know what I mean? So no, just because something is custom doesn't mean that it fits. All right. So last but not least, urban legend number 8. Matching patterns is a sign of dressing well. Some guys think that matching 3 or 4 patterns successfully means that they can really dress. It really means nothing, really. I mean, it's cool, don't get me wrong. But to me, dressing well is really in its simplicity. Wearing a white shirt, a dark tie, and a plain suit. By plain, I mean no stripes or no patterns. Extremely elegant, man. For example, I could be wearing a chalk stripe suit, a pencil stripe shirt, a full tie, and a pocket square with some characters on it. It just so happens that's what I'm wearing that day, but it's not really something that I really set out to do. You really don't have to know how to match patterns in order for you to be a good dresser. A lot of guys overdo it, man, when it comes to dressing well. You really don't have to do that. Just make sure you're wearing some nice shoes. Make sure that the shoes are clean. Make sure you're wearing a nice suit that fits. And make sure you're wearing a nice tie. And I know that I said earlier that I always notice the shoes first. But when it comes to well-dressed guys, it's a given that we're wearing nice shoes because you can't be well-dressed if you're not wearing nice shoes. So yes, the shoes are important, but we already know that we're wearing nice shoes. So when I'm amongst other well-dressed guys, one thing that I look at is the tie that they're wearing. That tells me a lot about their style. So yes, the ties are very important, but matching a bunch of patterns, while it can be cool if that's really what you're trying to accomplish, to me that's not a sign of dressing well. It just means that you know how to match patterns. But you can match a bunch of patterns nicely and still not be well dressed. So don't put too much stock into you have to learn how to match patterns because that's one of those things that can discourage people from getting dressed. Like I've heard so many guys tell me, I can never pull this off. And they're referring to what I'm wearing. It's nonsense, man. Of course you can pull it off. And I'm going to use the chalk stripe suit idea again. Just because you want a chalk stripe suit doesn't mean that you also have to be wearing some kind of patterns on your shirt or on your tie. It's okay for everything else to be solid because the suit already has enough of a presence for everything else. And like I said, I've done it. but I've never actually done it on purpose. So don't let that discourage you that you have to be good at matching patterns in order to be well dressed. It's not true. So this is the part of the show that I like to call I got a story to tell. I remember that my best friend used to always try to get me to buy a suit. And at that time I had one suit in my closet, which was a black suit that I had bought for a funeral. So whenever I would have to go to a wedding or somewhere where I had to get dressed, I would throw on the black suit. It was a horrible black suit, ill fitting, very baggy. But that was the only one in my closet. And my best friend would tell me, like, yo, bro, you need to get another suit, like a nice suit, just in case. And I'm like, for what? You know? Back then, I used to be in the music industry. I used to rap. And I never thought that I'd have to ever really have to wear a suit. Like, there's a famous picture of Dame Dash and Aaliyah where Dame Dash is wearing a 76ers jersey and Aaliyah's wearing a dress. I used to look at that picture like, wow, this is how I want to be. Like, I want to be able to be in street clothes while my girl or my wife is all dressed up. Like, that was the goal. Looking back now, what kind of goal was that? But yeah, that was the goal, you know what I mean? So whenever my best friend would tell me, you have to buy a suit, I never took his advice. And it's crazy, man, because I remember we was going to Summer Jam one year and I bought this throwback jersey that was $400, bro. It was a Gary Carter Mets throwback jersey. And I dropped $400 on it like it was nothing. Meanwhile, I did not have a suit in my closet. My friend would tell me, you can go to mall shows and get you a suit, a nice suit for around $300. I mean, looking back now, those weren't really nice suits, but those were nicer suits than the black one that I had in my closet. And the reason why I'm telling you that story is you have to keep the same energy, man. If you're into your presentation with street gear, you should be into your presentation with tailored clothing as well. I'm not saying that you have to invest the same kind of money in both. If the only time you wear a suit is when you have to, then you don't need as many suits as you do street clothes. So you should want that one suit that you do have to be a nice suit. So that way, when you do have to step out and have to wear a suit, then you're wearing a nice one because you are into your presentation, right? But no, nobody really does that. I've seen so many guys, sneakerheads with a crazy sneaker collection, and they're wearing square-toed shoes. And I'm not saying just because you know about sneakers that you automatically going to know about dress shoes, but this is where you're supposed to ask somebody that knows more than you. By the way, if you want to work with me, check out I'mNotAGentleman.com and there'll be a tab called Work With Me there where you can book an appointment. I'd be more than happy to set up a call with you and answer your questions. But yeah, man, keep the same energy. I'm really big on that. So if you care about your presentation, you should care about your presentation at all times, not just when you're in street clothes. So this is the part of the podcast where we like to bring in a caller. So the question for this week was, what's one thing that you used to hear about menswear, and then once you got into it, you found out it wasn't true? Let's get to the call.
Hey, what's up? This is Tiggy, man. So for me, one of the biggest myths in the menswear space when I was coming up is your trousers cannot have belt loops. For it to look elegant, you need to have side tab adjusters or suspenders, right? Um, Obviously, I went crazy with this. I bought most of my trousers with side tab adjusters, but now my style changed. It evolved over the years, and I feel like it just works for me, right? I like my high rise trousers pleated with a small, tiny belt loops, right? Not necessarily for the trousers to fit. I just like the character that it brings. I like the functionality sometimes, but primarily the character, right? Now, I have a caveat for this. I think for me personally, if I'm making a suit, it has to have side tab adjusters or suspenders. I cannot have belt loops on a suit because I think it doesn't look good. But for all trousers here and there, I just think there's an aesthetic that it brings, right? Like to me, personally for me, and I think it works, especially for smaller guys. If you're a big guy, if I'm advising someone that's a big guy, I will not advise them to go with trousers with belt loops because I don't think it looks good personally for me. So I think like suspenders or side top adjusters work for bigger guys. So the advice that should be out there is like, hey, side top adjusters bring certain level of elegance to your outfit, but it's not a no, right? So yeah, that's all I have, bro. Thanks.
Yo, shout out to the homie Tiggy for coming through. I do agree with what he says. I think that in a casual setting, you can definitely wear a belt, assuming that your trousers still have a high rise. That way you can wear it at your natural waist, which is around your belly button. But when we're talking about suits, I always recommend that you go with side tabs and suspenders. I do think that it's a much cleaner look because a belt can cut you in half where you have a top portion and a bottom portion versus if there's no belt there, it just flows a lot better. And also when you wear suspenders, the waist of the trousers can be a lot more forgiving. So you can have them be a little bit bigger than your actual waist because you're going to be floating them with suspenders anyway, which is what I do. So shout out to Tiggy. Appreciate you coming through. Very stylish dude, by the way. I'll include his Instagram in the show notes. So that was my episode on the 8 urban legends when it comes to menswear. The first one was tight fit is the right fit. Second one was your shoes aren't really that important. Third one was navy suits don't go with black shoes. Fourth one, you don't need to watch anymore these days. You got your cell phone. Fifth one was dressing well is too expensive. The sixth one is receiving compliments means that you know how to dress. The seventh one was a custom suit always fits. And the last one was matching patterns is a sign of dressing well. Thanks for checking out I'm Not a Gentleman. If you liked the episode, follow the podcast and leave your boy a 5-star review. You can find us on I'mNotAGentleman.com or wherever you listen. Check out my Patreon at I'mNotAGentleman.com/support for behind the scenes footage, early access to episodes, and bonus content. And tune in again next week for another fire episode of I'm Not a Gentleman. Peace.
Back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah. Hey. Back in that, yeah. Tell them to watch it.